Russian forces will transfer their aircraft and helicopters from Syria to the Ukrainian front. Most of the aviation consists of Su-34 fighter bombers. This view was expressed by military expert Mikhailo Zhirokov during a broadcast on Radio NV. According to Zhirokov, developments in Syria are a disadvantage for Ukraine because the Russians will redeploy their aviation to the Ukrainian front. The Russians are already transferring or will soon transfer the planes and helicopters they had in Syria to the Ukrainian front. This is obvious. These will be trained crews and prepared technical teams. Unfortunately, the majority will be Su-34s, carriers of guided aerial bombs. Zhirokov explained. Regarding the Russian fleet, the expert believes that Turkey will not allow Russian ships to pass through the Bosphorus Strait. Additionally, it is unclear whether the ships will be able to navigate the area around Gibraltar. In any case, if they are allowed through, the ships will head to the Northern Fleet. That is, they will have no direct impact on events at our front. However, the aircraft and helicopters unfortunately present a concerning situation, Zhirokov stated. It is currently unknown exactly how many Russian soldiers were in Syria. It is likely to be a contingent of several thousand, states military expert Ivan Stupak. According to the expert, there are indeed concerns that the Russian Federation may transfer its air component from Syria to Ukraine. However, the exact number of these troops is not known. There is such a concern. Look, there is no precise data on how many were in Syria, but there are some isolated figures. For example, in terms of personnel, I have seen materials mentioning 2,000 to 4,000 and at most 7,500 people, the Russian contingent in Syria. But we remember that they didn't operate on the ground. They mainly carried out precision strikes with precision weapons, said Stupak. He explained that the Russian troops who were in Syria mainly operated from the air. These were pilots, as Syria reportedly had 20 aircraft and around 10 helicopters. Therefore, I assume, my personal assumption, that it is this air component that will be sent to the Ukrainian front lines to reinforce Russia. So it's not about assault aircraft, although they could send all the assault aircraft right away. For Russia, that wouldn't be a problem, emphasized the expert. He also noted that Russia likely managed to negotiate with Turkey for a corridor to move its equipment. However, this is a very fast corridor designed to transport aircraft and helicopters. I don't know about the S-300, S-400 systems, whether they'll be able to move them or not, the expert emphasized. More frequent rotations of cargo planes between Russia and the Russian airbase at Khmeimim, as well as columns of Russian army vehicles moving along the roads, suggest that a start is being made on evacuating Russian military installations in Russia in the wake of the fall of Bashar al-Assad's regime. But it will not be easy for Russia to evacuate its military personnel, as well as a large amount of weapons and equipment deployed in different parts of the country from Syria. A large Russian military contingent remains in Syria. At the beginning of 2024, its number, according to indirect evidence, was about 7.5 thousand people, writes the BBC. Russia operates the Tartus naval base in Khmeimim Air Base, the other military facilities in the country. In 2017, Moscow and Damascus signed an agreement on the use of bases in Tartus and Khmeimim for a period of 49 years until 2066. However, now it is difficult to say whether Russia will retain them at all. The journalists note, adding that the Russian leadership has also made it clear that there are no plans to use them and their fate is to be discussed with the new authorities in Damascus. At the same time, the bases in Tartus and Khmeimim are not the only facilities where Russian military personnel are present. Journalists also emphasize that if the information previously published in the media is confirmed and the Russian command has contacted the Turkish command to agree on assistance in withdrawing troops, this will help evacuate Russian troops from the remote areas of Syria, but not from all of them. In some areas where there are Russian troops, there is no Turkish presence at all. In order to withdraw troops to Tartus or Khmeimim, from where they could then be evacuated to Russia, it will be necessary to negotiate with a wide variety of forces, the publication says. A certain amount of tension has been hovering around the Khmeimim and Tartus bases, as the Telegram channel Dva Mayora, which is close to the Russian army, reported. We have received information that militants from the Hayat Tahrir al-Sham intend to test the defenses of our Khmeimim base. Light camouflage measures, lights out, have been taken and personnel have taken up positions, he said. Evacuating the Russian military contingent directly from Syria will also not be easy. In addition to 7.5 thousand people, it includes a large number of weapons and military equipment, including armored vehicles and anti-aircraft missile systems. If the Russian Federation begins an urgent evacuation from Khmeimim, this may require hundreds of AN-124 and IL-76 flights in a very short time. The water route via the naval base in Tartus is no simpler either. Ships will not be able to pass through the Turkish Bosphorus and Dardanelles Straits into the Black Sea. The Syrian regime had a Bastion supersonic anti-ship missile systems at its disposal, equipped with P-800 Onyx missiles. They received them from Russia back in 2013, Defense Express reports. According to Defense Express, it would be relevant for Ukraine to receive these complexes as they could be studied and used to develop new methods of countering Russian missile attacks. The news agency also reports that the Bashar al-Assad's regime's forces had an unspecified number of Tochka-U tactical ballistic missiles, Elbrus systems, and Iranian Fateh 110 missiles at their disposal. In Defense Express's view, Iranian ballistic missiles would also be relevant for Ukraine, at least for study purposes. However, the practicality of deploying Elbrus systems in the Ukrainian armed forces is debatable. At the same time, Defense Express believes that the Tochka complexes in Syria could potentially be used for Ukrainian forces in conducting further missile strikes on Russian occupation targets. According to media reports, Syria's air defense included at least 20 launchers of the S-300 PMU-2 system, up to 36 launchers of the S-125-2M, Pechora 2M system, an unspecified number of S-200 launchers, as well as a Buk and Buk M2 complexes. These systems would significantly strengthen Ukraine's air defense. As of the beginning of this year, Syria's artillery arsenal included the 220mm Uragan and 300mm Smersh multiple launch rocket systems, whose ammunition is scarce on the global market. Syria also had a total of 184 military aircraft. Among them, Ukraine might be interested in MiG-29s, some of which were upgraded to the MiG-29SM variant. Additionally, Syria had 4 Ka-28 anti-submarine helicopters and 5 Mi-14s, which are likely inoperable but could serve as donors of spare parts. Defense Express believes that when considering the practical prospects of obtaining certain types of weaponry, the question is not so much about the condition of the equipment. The primary issue is who in Syria can be negotiated with for the potential acquisition of this equipment and weaponry. Recall this autumn, large-scale clashes erupted in Syria between rebels of the Islamist group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, units of the Syrian National Army, and the forces of dictator Bashar al-Assad, who were supported by Russia and Iran. On December 1st, the rebels captured Aleppo and later Hama. As al-Jalani mentioned in an interview with CNN, the rebels' goal was to overthrow Assad's regime. Meanwhile, the dictator is now in Moscow.